Hello, beautiful people. This is Cindy Pressgrace with Cindy's Realty Group by EXP, and I want to talk about recession. Okay, don't panic. Please do not panic because there's one thing that you guys have to understand. There's a difference between recession and and the housing recession. So I just want to talk a little bit more about that in detail because a lot of people are like, oh, you know what? No, there's a recession. The market's going to crash. Oh my gosh. No, it's so totally different. It is completely different. So there's the finance recession and there's the market recession. We are not in a housing recession. You still have multiple offers. It's a great time to buy. I mean, I'm telling you, it is not affecting the housing market completely. So please get that through your head and listen to me. If you guys have any questions or anything, please comment below and let me know. So there's like the one thing that every homeowner needs to know about recession. I'm telling you guys. Okay, let's see what there's out there, right? A recession does not equal a housing crisis. Look, if you follow my videos previously to that, we don't even have foreclosures, which is amazing. I mean, the foreclosure rate is so low that it is really important to know that. Do not follow the media. It's like, oh my gosh, 700% increase. No, it's at its lowest that has ever been. So, like I said, that's the only one thing that every homeowner needs to know. You know, the recession does not equal a housing crisis. And I'm going to repeat this over and over again because I want you guys to get that through your head. If you guys understand that, perfect. If you guys don't understand that, ask questions. There's no stupid question whatsoever. So everywhere you work, or everywhere you're looking at, experts are warning we could be heading towards a recession. And if it's true, an economic slowdown doesn't mean that homes lose value. And I can't remember what years was it. There was like 3 years, three type of recessions that actually houses were still appreciating. Keep in mind, real estate is a perfect investment. So in this case, the National Bureau of Economic Research has said, defines a recession this way. A recession is a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, normally visible in production, employment in this country over the past 4 decades. So it's not like, oh, you know what, it's affecting the housing market. No, it's basically meaning that people are spending less, they're staying at home. That's most likely it. So a recession begins when the economy reaches a peak of economic activity and ends when the economy reaches its thorough. So this is between the thorough and the peak. The economy is an expansion. So think about that for a moment. And do you have any questions on that? If not, just comment. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you about this, and we're gonna talk about from the 1980s up to 2020. So basically, because of the pandemic and everything that is going on, then I can talk to you about something else. But to help you show that home prices don't fall every time there's a recession, I'm going to tell you about the historical data that is going on here from the 1980s to 2020. And this is really, really important. So there has been 6 recessions in the country over the past 4 decades. That means in 40 years. So I'm going to talk to you about this graph that I've been looking at right now. So as the graph shows below, this is for 1980. So recession doesn't equal a housing crisis. So keep that in mind. It does not equal a housing crisis. No, no, no. Okay, so looking at the recessions going all the way back from the 1980s, almost 40 years ago, home prices appreciate 4 times and depreciate only 2 times. So this means historically there's a proof that the economy slows down. It does not mean that home values will fall or depreciate. So if you're thinking that the home prices are going to fall, no, they're not going to fall. It's just the economy is just slowing down, meaning a recession. But that does not equal, and I'm telling you this over and over again, that it does not equal a housing crisis. There's a difference between the market crash and a housing crisis. Well, no, the market crash and a recession. So that is something that you actually have to take into consideration and think and say, okay, do I have any questions? What do I do? Okay, in 1980, there was a recession. This is like 40 years ago, and it was a 6.1%, right? That was the increase. That is the increase in home value. Now in 1981, the home appreciation was at a 3.5%. Now, if we're talking about that, now we're talking about in 1991, this is almost 11 years later, 10 years later, and it was a negative 1.9%. It didn't depreciate anything at all. So you can actually tell because of this graph is actually showing me, hey, you know what, from 1980 that there was a depreciation. Now we're going to 1981. Now 1991. Now, okay, 2001, the price appreciation was 6.6%. Now let's talk about 2008. Okay, in 2008, we're talking about there was a depreciation of negative 19.7%, but that was a totally different story back then. Now we're talking about 2020, depreciation was a 6%. So think about that. 2020, we're in 2022, homes have appreciated humongously. I would say around 18 to 20%, depending on where you're at. And yes, I mean, we're still getting multiple offers. So keep this in mind. A recession does not mean a housing crisis. Like I said, and think about this very, very much. It is not a housing crisis. It's just the economy is slowing down. People are spending less. Okay, so the first occasion on the graph, and this is talking about the graph, when home values depreciated was in the early 1990s. And we're talking about 1991, when home prices dropped by less than 2%. It happened again during the housing crisis. And then in 2008, keep this in mind, there was an actual housing crisis in 2008. So yes, there was a recession, housing crisis, market crash, boom. Now, we're not going through that, people. We're not. There's low inventory. So when home values declined by almost 20%, most people vividly remember the housing crisis in 2008. You cannot compare apples with peaches, people. Please do not compare apples with peaches. And think if we were to fall into a recession, that we would repeat what happened then. But this housing market isn't a bubble. And keep this in mind, it is not a bubble at all. We're not going through that again. So that's about, I mean, and you guys think that this is going to burst. It's not going to burst. It's going to keep under appreciating. Keep this in mind. We don't know what the value is going to be, but we're predicting, and these are some videos that I've actually talked about this in the past, that by the end of this year, there's going to be an appreciation of between 9 and 10%. And this is coming from actual hard data. This is like NAR, this is MBA. We're talking about other places too that have that accurate data, the experts in the market. So now we're talking about the fundamentals are very different today than they were in 2008. So you're thinking that prices are going to go down? No. If you're thinking that, you shouldn't assume that we're heading down the same path, because this is completely different. We have restricted guidelines. Believe me, when you buy a house, you actually have to provide your DNA. Not really, people, we don't. But basically, they will ask for your divorce decree. They will ask for every single little thing. Do you have income? Oh yeah. Do you have this? Oh yeah. Oh wait, I forgot. Yeah, did you count this in as a watch too? Yeah. It's everything, every single little thing. They have more restricted guidelines. 24 hours, they will request, information. They will find to see if you have an employment, if you have actually filed for taxes, every single little thing, because they're trying to avoid any little thing from 2008. It's not going to happen, because now there are more restricted guidelines and all that, especially after COVID, they became stricter. Okay, so people, I want to close with this is we're not in a recession in this country. So keep that in mind. We're not in a recession in this country, but if one is coming, it does not mean that houses are going to lose their value. No, they're not. History proves a recession does not equal a housing crisis. Get that through your head. No housing crisis. No. We're not depreciating. We're going to be appreciating. And keep this in mind. I'm going to close it with this. 10% by the end of this year. Increase. So this is Cindy Pressgrace with Cindy's Realty Group. And I hope you guys love this. Have a beautiful day.